Hey everyone, I'm Rob Stanley. I'm Chief Marketing Officer with FeedbackWhiz.
I'm Ryan Kramer. I'm the affiliate marketing manager for Ping Pong International. I'm in the United States market. Welcome and thank you for joining us on our first episode. Today with us is our very special guest, Jeff Schick. Jeff, why don't you intro yourself?
Hey everyone, so I'm Jeff Schick. I'm one of the attorneys at Rafelson Schick and SellerBasics, and so I'm excited to share some knowledge of the United States intellectual property law with you guys today.
Excellent. And just for everyone and their knowledge, we're going to be talking about copyright, patent, and trademark topics today, specifically for Amazon, but obviously e-commerce, if you're selling any marketplace, super helpful to have someone like Jeff on your side. So we're going to go through some basics first. Jeff, what are the definitions? Just let's start with the basics. What's the definition for copyright, patent, trademark? Why don't you walk us through the basics?
So great question. So copyrights, the basic answer is, copyrights protect visual works, written works. It could be computer source code. It could be, even like movie quotes or movies, pictures, images, anything you can think of that's created is basically protected by copyright. It's the most basic form of protection. And the interesting thing about copyrights is that you don't actually have to have a registered copyright to get copyright protection, but getting a registered copyright allows you to take down other people when they violate your work. So it's something we'll talk about later on. But copyright is basically the most basic form of intellectual property protection that you can have for your product or your brand. And it's the only type of protection you really get automatically when you create something. So, when you think of, like, if you look at a logo, the shape of the logo and the way the letters are organized, like that FeedbackWhiz logo right there, the whiz portion with the little box, that's protected by a copyright. Now, trademarks go hand in hand with copyrights. And so trademarks are what would cover the FeedbackWhiz name. So FeedbackWhiz itself is protected. So you can't go create a competing service called Feedback, Wizard, because it's going to compete. That would be protected, trademark infringement of FeedbackWhiz. So trademarks, those protect your name, and like the name of the actual company. It could be the brand name of your products. Trademarks can also protect the your logo design. So you can actually have a logo that's protected by trademark and copyright. So it's kind of an interesting one there. And in terms of a product, product names, brand names, all those can be protected by trademarks. Copyrights can protect the actual design of your product and the bullet points, the pictures, and other attributes of your Amazon product detail page. Patents are the most fun, but those are also the most expensive type of intellectual property to get. Those cover, you can either have utility patents, which would cover, for instance, like the usefulness of something. So the way that it works. If you got a patent on a slingshot, then it would cover the use of, a slingshot apparatus would be covered by patent for a utility patent. Whereas there's also design patents that cover the actual design. So, like, for instance, you might have a hairbrush that brushes hair a certain way because the prongs are organized in a certain prong pattern. That would have a utility patent on the prong pattern. But if you had a special handle that's really comfortable, you could have a design patent on the handle. So I hope that makes sense what I'm saying there. But it, and that whole brush itself could be protected by copyrights, trademarks, and patents all in one thing, because you could have a copyright on the logo, a trademark on the name, and a design patent on the shape, and then a utility patent on the function. And then you've got a ironclad lawsuit in a box waiting for somebody to copy.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, obviously. So Rob, why don't you take it away?
So I actually have a question for Jeff then.
Yeah.
So let's go a little more detail on what you were talking about, Jeff. So if I turn around and I'm selling a product and I put my trademark name in the title, and let's say I have it on the product itself, or possibly just the box the product comes in, like, where is the distinction of how that protection is happening? Like, if I sell a product that doesn't have my name on it or my name on the box, but my name's on the title, am I still protected? And then, kind of like there's three levels there, right? Title, yeah. And then if I just put it on the box, but I don't put it on the title, don't put it on the product, or I just put it on the product, but I don't have it in the title, you know what I'm saying? Maybe try to explain a little more detail on, are all three of those protected, or do you have to have all three?
So the first question that you asked of, do you have to have your name, your trademarked name on the product in the box? The answer to that is no, you don't. So if you have a product that's being sold on Amazon and you just have the name in the title, then that could be enough to protect you against somebody else selling on your product listing with even like, and that's where people can get in a lot of trouble is you might find a listing that has the exact same product. Like maybe you've got the manufacturer makes brand A and brand B. You can't buy brand B just because it looks like brand A and send it in on brand A's Amazon product detail page. And that's because brand A has intellectual property rights for their listing. And so if brand A, is purchasing, 500 widgets and the factory makes 500 more widgets that for brand B, you can't buy some of that brand B and send it into brand A, even if it looks the same. So that's the first major distinction where sellers sometimes get in trouble is they'll go online and they'll find a product that looks identically the same. We recently had an issue actually with sellers selling a screw, and you could buy the screw at Home Depot for $5 and it has no branding on the screw whatsoever. But then they would sell it on Amazon for $20, and there was actually a private label seller that had created their own listing. They had a trademark on the screw, and then they started selling these, they were selling their, you'll call it, the screw company or whatever with their screw. And then a bunch of other sellers started realizing, hey, we can buy this product at Home Depot now and sell it on this Amazon listing for 4 times markup. Well, that person who owns that listing started filing counterfeit infringement claims, saying that the people that were buying these screws from Home Depot were selling a materially different screw. And the answer to that is that he's actually right, because he owns that list. He has the rights to that listing, and he was claiming that it was his brand of screw, and the screws being sold at Home Depot are a different brand. So you can't sell them on his brand listing on Amazon.
Now, what about yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, and those screws, of course, didn't come in bags. They didn't come with names or anything. So it just goes to show how far that protection can stretch for trademarks.
Yeah. Follow up to that. Would you advise people, if possible, like it would probably really be hard to stamp something on a screw, right? A tiny screw. But do you advise people that if it's possible to put their name on the packaging and the product, just more so it's even less, what is the right word? Like,
questionable.
Yeah. It's yours, right? Like it's like somebody's probably not going to run out and make a screw that has a stamp on it, the same stamp as yours, right? Like this one, it sounded like neither one had a marking on it that distinguished it, but you're right. The person created the listing had the trademark. So do you usually advise to have like your name on the product?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can put your name on your product packaging, then it definitely just strengthens those claims. So that way, and people are less likely to join onto your listing, because what happens a lot of times with private label sellers is they'll have all these great images of their product, but it doesn't zoom. You don't have enough of an image to show where it's got the name, or maybe they don't even put the name on their product because that costs more to get a custom mold. And so they're just selling the same product as everybody else. And then random people find the picture and see that they can buy it as well, and it looks the same, and then they start selling it, and it just creates mass confusion. And then basically at the end of the day, whoever owns the trademark is the one who has the rights to file counterfeit claims against those people who start selling on their listing, and that's what happens.
Is there an automatic rights that a seller gets when they start on Amazon? What's kind of like the basics of a person coming amongst Amazon? They have their product, they have their listing. What's kind of that basic package that them as sellers are protected under?
So the only real like automatic benefits that a seller would get is when it comes is copyright protection. And so that covers the images that you take, assuming that you took the images. The photographer who takes the picture has the copyright of the image, and then whoever writes the bullet points and the description and title has the copyright of the copyright rights to that work. Now, if you're paying them and you're a company and you're paying somebody to do that for you, then that's considered a work made for hire. So the company retains the ownership of those images and bullet points. It's always important to watch out for, especially if you're hiring people in the United States to take those images and write that text for you. You want to make sure that that's specified that it's a work made for hire, so that your company owns the rights, because some photographers and some copywriters will try to retain copyright ownership which then makes it challenging for you to file claims with Amazon because you have to have their permission to file.
Sure.
So that is one key distinction. If you're paying somebody to do work for you, make sure that it's a work for hire. Along the same line, I thought, you do get a trademark right, a common law trademark right when you start selling a product under a certain brand. But until you file with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, you don't have an enforceable trademark right that you can enforce on Amazon. So to enforce on Amazon, you actually have to have a registered United States trademark that's on the principal register in order to, take down anyone that's selling either counterfeit products or, selling on your listing that's, selling a knockoff product, so you actually have to file for those. And then the same thing with patents. You have to file for a utility or design patent in order to have those rights, but it also has to happen. The filing has to be before you start selling the product. So it's important to talk to a patent lawyer if you think you might have patent rights. Big key differentiator too is that intellectual property rights are country specific. So if you have a copyright in China or a trademark in China or a patent in China, does not translate over into the United States of having any rights. And someone could actually have a competing copyright or a competing trademark or a competing patent in the United States. And therefore you wouldn't be able to sell that product in the United States because of that. So you do want to watch out and make sure that you check the United States, patents and trademarks so that you don't end up in a situation where you're, selling a product that infringes on the U.S. law, even if it's not infringing on, China, like in the law in China.
So you would almost suggest that would be first step, that someone, before they open up a storefront or sell product internationally, check that country's specific trade or patent office to make sure that product is secure. You can file it right then and there, make sure you're protected from the get-go.
I mean, it's always a good idea, especially if you're going to invest a lot of money in product. Like if you're going to spend $5,000 to $10,000, creating a bunch of products and sending it into Amazon, then it makes sense to, have a lawyer look through and just make sure, that the name that you're going to sell under is not, going to be violating. And for instance, I'll give you an example. One of my first cases when I started working with Amazon sellers, is that I had a seller reach out to me and he had been suspended on Amazon for trademark infringement. And he had an email from Amazon seller support telling him that he was allowed to create a new brand of clothing that was Nike with a Y, Nikey. And he had this email from Amazon's seller support representative telling him, yes, sir, you can sell Nike with a Y. And here's the step-by-steps of how to create it. The problem is that evidence of seller support telling you that it's not a legal determination letter and it's not worth anything. So when Amazon's seller performance team found that he was selling Nike with a Y, they suspended his seller account and confiscated all his inventory as being infringing because teams at Amazon, teams don't talk to one another and it's not determinative. And the issue there is mainly that, Nike with a Y is infringing on Nike, the global footwear giant's trademark of Nike. So
right.
If you
don't want to go up against them, right?
No, and if you'd had, a 10-minute consult with us, for instance, we would have told him that right away and saved him a lot of headache and money that he had to spend because of, having all these goods basically just get thrown away because he couldn't sell them. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jeff, we got a couple questions. A lot of questions are coming from the Chinese sellers regarding product pictures. Okay. Let me try to get, there's kind of two and they kind of sound the same, but let me know if you could distinguish between these. There's a question coming in about how does a seller obtain the copyright of an Amazon product picture? Okay. And then there was another one that said, will Amazon automatically give copyright protection to a picture for a seller?
So the way that you would gain copyright protection on an image, first off, you have to make sure you're the one that took the image. So you have to, if you didn't take the picture, then you don't have the copyright and you won't be given the copyright. Amazon doesn't actually give you copyrights. When you create the picture, you're given a common law copyright. And if you want to change that into a registered copyright, then you would, contact an attorney and have them file the copyright for you to get a registered copyright. It takes a couple months, usually around 3 to 4 months. COVID is changing some of that because it just delays at the copyright office. And it's only, roughly $50 is the copyright filing fee. So most attorneys charge about $100. You're about looking at about $150 for copyright filing to protect your listing. So you can
per picture, right?
No, you can actually do batch uploads. So it's you can actually, depending on what's being done, it can be, you know, as low as $50. Sometimes it's a little bit more. But the cool thing is with batch filing is your attorney can save you some money there, because they can do one filing, and maybe you have to pay multiple copyright fees of $50 each, but you don't have to pay the attorney multiple fees because it's just one application. So
Right.
Follow up to that. So once you do kind of protect that image, does that give you sort of the leeway like we've talked about with people jumping on listings? Like if somebody takes that photo and uses on a different listing, are you kind of able to get that listing removed because you protected that image?
You can, yeah, you can file a DMCA takedown. And so Amazon does have to take that down. But a lot of times lately, what they're coming back with is if you don't have that registration number and you don't have the certificate from the Copyright Office to show that you've got the United States copyright, then they may disregard your takedown request. So that's where having that documentation on the front end is really important, because it obviously can be, it used to be an abusive tactic that people would go on and file fake copyright claims with Amazon. And so their resolution is that they're now requesting, in a lot of cases, evidence that you actually own the copyright. And of course, the most conclusive evidence of owning a copyright is a copyright registration certificate. So.
Okay. And I think there was, Ryan, there was another question, I think, regarding images that came in.
Yeah, Jeff. So one of the questions about images is how people use the same, like many people use the same product pictures for different listings, like you alluded to earlier. How do you determine who owns those images from like a 10,000 feet, perspective? And if someone modifies that picture slightly, whether they take it into a Photoshop or a photo editing software, can it be judged as different?
So the easy answer to the Photoshop question is that fair use typically doesn't cover Photoshopping when it comes to a commercial context. So merely taking, if I have a picture of, a water bottle and then you put it in somebody's hand, that's not necessarily fair use, and that doesn't give you a copyright. Although you've got a copyright on the new image, it doesn't give you copyright over the water bottle or the person. So, and you could be infringing either of those two images when you started. Now, to answer your question about, you've got a bunch of listings using the exact same image, which does happen very commonly on Amazon. The answer to that question is the only person who has the right to use that image and who has the copyright is the person who originally took that product the first time and uploaded it. And everybody else that's using that image is at risk of the person who does own the copyright. That person that took that picture and uploaded it, they're at risk of that person retaliating and filing a takedown, and Amazon's going to side with them if they do. So seeing, a lot of times sellers will come to me and they'll say, well, 10 other sellers are using this exact same image. And the answer to that is yes, they're using it. They just haven't been caught yet. So it doesn't mean that you can use it too. And if you do use it, you could get your entire account suspended for IP infringement. So the quick answer is how do you know if you can use an image is if you took it yourself. If you took the image yourself, or you paid somebody to take it for you, and that you've got that it was a work for hire, then the answer to that question is that it's yours and that you own the rights to it and you can use it. So
sure. When in doubt, take the picture yourself and don't copy it from another listing.
Absolutely. Even a common misconception is people will say, oh, I bought this from my manufacturer, especially on like the arbitrage goods side of things. Like say you're arbitraging, Crest toothpaste, and they'll go to Crest's website and download a picture of it. Well, that doesn't give you the right to use that picture just because you're selling that product. And we've seen a lot of manufacturers now going through and actually doing copyright takedowns because of people doing that. So what we're telling sellers now is, always take your own product images, especially if there's any question in your mind whether it could be an issue.
Awesome. And obviously in a specific case, ask you or anyone from your team.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, reach out to an attorney. That's what we're here for. I mean, I'll save the pitch for later.
That's my little plug for you. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll get to it. Definitely. We want everybody to hear about Jeff and his service. We think it'll be a great asset for any seller, especially Chinese sellers. But we do have another question coming in, Jeff.
Yes.
Somebody's, and I'll have to try to interpret this a little bit, but they're kind of asking like, how can sellers protect their copyright material or goods? And I don't know if they're specifically maybe talking about like, is that a formula? What do you think, Ryan, what they're trying to ask there?
In terms of that question, how I interpret it is, what's something that people can do from the get-go? Like what are simple step-by-step instructions, whether it's from the get-go and they want to sell as a beginner, how can they just protect themselves from getting into a legal argument or find themselves neck deep and, or their listing itself being taken down? How do you preemptively, protect yourself, I would say?
So the best way for sellers to protect themselves is to talk to an attorney before they start selling the product. If they have, copyrighted materials they want to protect, and just, and just have those copyrights filed, because it's a game of, cat and mouse. If you try to play afterwards and say that I started with this image in 2015, whereas if you would have filed for a copyright in 2015 for that image, you would have a sheet of paper from the U.S. government telling you you've got this copyright, and then you don't have to point the finger later and try to say, oh no, I was 2015, and then someone else says, well, I was 2015, and then someone else comes in and tries to say I was 2014. And if you have that piece of paper showing that you were 2015, that's the easiest way to protect their copyrighted materials, is to get a registered copyright from the Library of Congress in the United States is who issues them. Same thing with trademarks. If you're selling your brand and you don't, you haven't gotten a trademark yet, go ahead and, get someone, have an attorney file a trademark for you. They're very, relatively, in terms of business expenses, trademarks and copyrights are relatively cheap. I mean, they're not nearly as expensive as they used to be, and they offer a great deal of protection for you, not only against, people stealing your ideas, but it also helps you as a defensive strategy from people claiming that you're infringing on their rights. Because if you've already got the legal rights to something, either a trademark right or a copyright right, then if somebody tries to, falsely accuse you of having stolen their intellectual property, you've got something very concrete to provide to Amazon, because both copyrights and trademarks, you get a really pretty certificate that you can give to Amazon as a PDF that shows very clearly that you're not infringing. So it's a great, defensive strategy to have as well.
I guess a follow-up question I have about that specifically, do you need to worry about protecting yourself from other manufacturers of goods? Like you said, is there a way to protect yourself, not just from sellers, but from other, factories to knock off your own product that you're selling?
Well, definitely. I mean, if you have an issue with hijackers on your listing, then, programs that Amazon's made available to people with trademarks include things like transparency. There's other ways you can also register with the United States Customs and Border Patrol and tell them, only these factories are authorized to import products on our behalf. So, there's different programs that are available to people who have registered United States trademarks that can definitely help with the common issues that Amazon sellers are likely to face. And, transparency is by far the most effective program Amazon offers right now at keeping people off your listing if they're not selling your product. Because I'm not sure if, I guess new sellers probably don't know what transparency is, but Amazon Transparency is actually a program where they give you a special serial number barcode, a little, almost like a QR code for every item that you sell. And so you tell them that I'm going to have, batch number 1 that I'm producing is, 500 units, and they'll give you 500 QR codes. And then you have your factory put those stickers on each unit. And then if Amazon receives an ASIN without that QR code, they're going to quarantine it until they can figure out why it's missing a barcode. So what that does for you as the seller is that your 500 units that are stickered get sent into FBA, they get processed, they're sent out to Amazon customers. But if somebody else tries to jump on your listing and they don't have those barcodes, it's never even going to show up for sale for Amazon customers. So they're never going to steal any of the buy box from you, and they're never going to, you're not going to have to worry about negative product reviews coming on from there, because if they're using a different product, customers would complain that it's not matching what they purchased. So the transparency is by far the best way to protect against that.
Yeah, a quick follow-up to that, and Jeff's aware of this. So actually, FeedbackWhiz does have hijacker alerts in our software. Yeah. And in fact, I think Jeff's used it for himself.
Yes.
And that's so if somebody does change your image or title or description or your price, you get alerted instantly. So I got to throw that in there because definitely that's something I think that could help some of the sellers out there. We're getting lots more questions though, Jeff, on photos. So let me, they all vary slightly, but somebody asked if someone uses part of a photo from the internet to print on a product label, do I need to obtain authorization from the copyright owner of the image? And I'm going to add a little more to that. Obviously, the answer is yes, you need to obtain it. But if you're using any image, you were mentioning about like using a service. You probably want to have a contract or something in place if you use a service, take your photos. And then what if you do find a photo out on the internet or from somebody else? Is there do you guys offer a service to approach them? Or once I've approached them and they say yes, should I come to you to get a legal document that gives me the right to use an image?
Certainly for some of the bigger sellers, we definitely are helping with that. So they'll come to us and, if they are going to, especially, some photographers can charge thousands of dollars. So, if you're going to spend big money on photography, then definitely we encourage the sellers to come to us and let us review the contract and make sure that it says what it needs to say. If it's a smaller project, it might not be cost effective or as crucial. But to answer the first part of your question, you said it for sure. If you're using part of a photo, so like for instance, you might go online and find, say you're selling a pillow and you want to show that pillow on a couch. So you go to Google and you type in beautiful couch in living room. And then you take the first photo that comes up and you try to superimpose your photo onto that couch. Certainly that's copyright infringement, because even though you own the rights to the photo of the pillow, you don't own the rights to the photo of the couch. So the way you would appropriately do that is you'd need to find either an open source picture of a couch that allows commercial use, or you need, and also you have to look as well, because some of the Creative Commons licenses allow for Photoshop and some of them do not allow you to edit the photo. So you have to make sure you're finding an open source product photo of a couch that allows you to edit as well as use in a commercial context. And then you can upload your photo onto it, or you need to license it. So you'll go to I'm trying to think of one of the licensing companies, but they're kind of Rob, do you know one of those companies? I'm trying to think of who does
I personally use Pixabay myself, and I'd have to have Jeff take a look at the licensing on it, or whoever's looking to use it from there. If I remember correctly, when I looked through it, and I think I had you look through it at one point on Pixabay, that it said you could modify it, you could change it, you could even modify it and change it, re-upload it. It's just like you couldn't put it in a package and sell that package of images to somebody type thing. If I remember correctly. Again, everybody, I'm not the lawyer, Jeff is, and you should follow up yourself. Yeah. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just saying there's a website called Pixabay. So, yeah.
Right, for sure, yeah. Yeah, so Pixabay is one, and then there's a couple other, iStock Photo is another. Oh, yeah. So look for stock photo companies, and then just make sure that when you're buying the appropriate license that you buy the appropriate license that allows for Photoshop and that allows you to display it in a commercial context. Because there are actually services out there now that scan the internet for, if you find some random photo on Google and you take it, there are services out there that scan Amazon on a daily basis, and they'll issue takedown notices, and Amazon respects those notices, and they will shut down your Amazon account for doing it. So you don't want to grab random photos off the internet without paying the appropriate royalties and licensing fees, because you will get shut down.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jeff, is there a place that you would recommend going to find certified, vetted by either a lawyer or a company that would is always great to work with, where, people, if they're back and forth and people claim that they do, Amazon Photos services, is there a place that you would recommend going in terms of we know for a fact that they're great to work with, they'll let you, this is how they, help you, this is all the services they offer. Where can people go in the United States and China? If you're an Amazon seller, where can they go for that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So there's actually an Amazon seller that has an image service that they will make those product pictures for you, the lifestyle images, the infographics. They'll even help you with writing your Amazon product detail pages. And they're called Amazing Freedom. And so it's Andy Slamans and Nathan Slamans. they operate a service that's, it's based in Pennsylvania and it's above board and they follow all the rules. And they're definitely someone that if you're a new seller and you don't know, if you're unfamiliar with the laws and you're unfamiliar with the rules, they're a great source to turn to because they can help you for all steps of the way for product detail page development. So
Awesome.
definitely would be, I'd say, amazingfreedom.com. That's their website, check them out because they definitely can help out a lot.
For sure. And we can try to link to those people as well in this video. So amazingfreedom.com. Awesome. And then Rob, I know you had another question.
Yeah, I think this might be the last question. Then we want Jeff to definitely tell us more about the services he offers with SellerBasics. But it was kind of a question regarding like the account health dashboard. And they were kind of asking like, if I've gotten a notice or suspended, is there somewhere I could go look to see like, am I able to start selling? Because sometimes they kind of like suspend you for 30 days and you got to wait that 30 days. But is there kind of an area, to go look at? And if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, I think you mentioned something about account help dashboard is a good place. Tell a little bit more about that and what you can learn from that area.
So the account health dashboard is basically for Amazon sellers. It's your nerve center of your account that you can go to and you can see any sort of, suspected intellectual property and received intellectual property complaints to help you compliant, as well as listing policy violations. So, used sold as new claims, authenticity claims, restricted products policy issues. Everything that could possibly go wrong on Amazon just about is now being filtered onto the Amazon account health dashboard, which is under the performance tab in Seller Central. One of the cool things we offer for our SellerBasics members is we actually will do an account health review at no charge. So if you ever have an exclamation point show up on that dashboard, we'll jump on a call with you and we will figure out why you've got that notification on your dashboard and help you figure out if you need to diagnose it. But suspected intellectual property complaints is a really big proactive tool Amazon's been pushing out. It's a great resource for sellers to look at because if they think that you are likely to be infringing on somebody's intellectual property rights, it's going to, in many cases, it's going to flag it there as an early warning system and allow you to take action. And so, it's important to keep on track of that because the next step, if you ignore it, is it will become a received intellectual property complaint. And then you have to start writing appeals and could have your account terminated for it. So watching that suspected intellectual property page is really important, especially if you don't quite fully understand U.S. intellectual property laws, because it's that early warning system for you.
Sure.
And, we're certainly happy to help. If you have any questions at all on it, we're happy to help walk sellers through how to use it and what to look for.
Well, yeah, I think that leads us, there's so much information out there. The legal trademark, any patent, there's so much information out there. We couldn't have enough time to cover it all today. Jeff, what can we do? If I'm a seller, I'm like, where do I even start? Tell us about your company. Why are you the guy to work with and go to on this case?
Right. So a little bit about our company is, we're a team of lawyers dedicated to helping sellers, and our claim to fame and what makes us interesting is that we actually all paid for law school by selling on Amazon. So Paul Rafelson and myself, we both Paul was in law school in the days of merchant fulfillment. He was up at Villanova and was, literally going to the campus post office every day to ship out merchant fulfilled orders. When I was in law school at the University of Pennsylvania, we had FBA at the time. So I was the one going to my warehouse and, shipping out, thousands of items a month and sending them to FBA. And so both of us paid for law school by selling on Amazon. So we actually know about Amazon from a firsthand perspective. And now we use that knowledge to really help sellers. What's cool, we're the first law firm, the only one right now that actually has a program called SellerBasics, where it allows you to pay $99 a month and it gives you unlimited consultations with our lawyers. You're not getting a paralegal, you're actually getting a lawyer on the phone. You get to run your questions by. We help you figure out the situation. If there's something you need help with, we'll come up with a game plan for you. And then you get discounts on all of our services. So we help sellers with suspensions, with tax issues, with corporate issues, intellectual property, you name it. If it happens on Amazon, we've probably done it. And our team is dedicated to your success.
That's awesome. And that's not just for US sellers, it's for any sellers internationally. Jeff?
We have sellers all over the world. We've got sellers in China. We've got sellers in Hong Kong. We've got SellerBasics members in Europe. We've got SellerBasics members like in Germany and the UK right now. I think we have at least one seller in every Amazon marketplace right now, which is really cool to see. So we help sellers, you know, if you're selling in the United States or in the European Union, we're the go-to firm for that. So.
And Jeff, your website again to find you guys. What is that?
So it's sellerbasics.com or ecomattorneys.com. So one of the two will work for us. If you want to learn about the service, it's sellerbasics.com. So
awesome. We can follow you on social media, and I'm sure like
absolutely,
say, any kind of thing that they have questions, contact you directly. But I think we're running up on time. You know, thank you so much for joining us on our first episode. This has been super helpful. I know I've learned a lot about patent, trademark, everything and anything. I know sellers out there are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea all this existed. I needed to talk to Jeff and his team. But hey,
if you sign up for SellerBasics, that call is free. So, you know, it's
there you go.
So give us a call and we're happy to explain any of this stuff.
That's awesome.
So. Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and everybody. I know there's more questions coming in, but you know, we don't have enough time to we'd be here for hours if we keep going. But any of those legal questions regarding, you know, patents, trademarks, copyrights, the tons of photo questions that we got asked, please be sure, sign up for SellerBasics, direct them to Jeff. He's the right guy that will definitely help you with all those legal questions and anything to do with, you know, legalities regarding Amazon. And Jeff, thanks again for being on. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit FeedbackWhiz.com.